Brett Pontecorvo here at MainstagetoAbleton.com, and today we are talking about arpeggiators, specifically Ableton's built-in arpeggiator. I, for a long time, wrote this off as sort of a second-rate arpeggiator. There are certainly arpeggiators that are more complicated, but I've been finding that when you really understand exactly what this arpeggiator is doing, you actually can get a pretty wide variety of effects based off of this. An arpeggiator can be great for doing like actual standard arpeggiator things that you might hear on a recording where the synthesizer is doing ridiculous runs and you're like, yeah, there's no way that guy's playing that. Or it can also be great for sort of generating ideas for your music, which is something that I use it for relatively frequently. All right, so let's start with the sort of default arpeggiator. This here is my MIDI monitor. You don't need to pay too much attention to this. The reason that it's here is so that you can see the order of the notes happening. It's sort of the visual representation, and when I'm playing with some of the different parameters, you'll see it reflected here, and I think it's a helpful visual guide. But if you don't have this, don't worry about it. Yeah, all right, so my arpeggiator is on this channel, 1 MIDI. And this is my instrument, and this instrument is receiving MIDI from the arpeggiator. And the reason I have it separated out is because it would allow me to capture the MIDI idea in note form so that I could alter it if I so desired. And if you're interested in seeing that video, there's a link in the comments. All right, so let's start with the style here. There are 18 different styles here. And I'm not going to talk you through all of them, but on my blog post, the text write-up of this video, you can get a detailed explanation of what each of these do. We're going to hang out on up because I think that's a good basic place to start, and it will allow us to explore all of the parameters easily, and you can kind of see what they do. All right, so I'm going to play a C chord, and it's going to arpeggiate it, and check it out. So that's just a basic C major triad with C on the bottom, and you'll see that it's playing eighth notes starting at the bottom, going up. All right, so our first parameter that I'd love to take a look at is rate. Based off of how you set this, it will tell your arpeggiator how quickly to arpeggiate your notes. So here are my eighth notes, 16th, and so on and so forth, and it can get slower as well. All right, you get the idea. Gate controls how long or short these notes are. The smaller values are shorter notes, and the higher values are longer notes. So as I turn this up, you're going to hear it get progressively more legato. And as I turn it down, it gets shorter and shorter. Cool. That's the way that works. Rate and gate. You can get a wide range just out of that by itself. Let's talk about retriggering. Retriggering basically means start over. So beat retriggering is where we're going to start. And with it's set to 3/4, every 3 beats, it's going to start the pattern over. So to kind of give you a good demonstration of what that's like, I actually am going to have to play 4 notes. So I'm going to play a C major 7 chord, C, E, G, and B. And with this retrigger parameter on the beat, every 3 beats it will start the pattern over in the middle. So let's have a listen. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you have that juxtaposed against something that is clearly 4/4, that would sort of make a difference. You could also change this to be any other rate. Let's do a longer one. Let's do 5/4. So you get the idea. It's starting it over. Note retriggering happens the pattern will restart every time you change a note. So and so on and so forth. So every time I change a note, it starts back at the beginning of the pattern, and you'll notice every time a new note comes in. And it will always start at the beginning of the pattern, which is worth noting. So even if I'm playing a note that is not C, it still goes back to C to start the pattern over. All right, steps. This works in conjunction with distance. So right now we're going to leave it set to +12, which is an octave, and I'm going to turn on one step, and I'm going to turn retrigger off for now just so you get a good demonstration. So what you're going to hear is I'm going to play my basic C major triad, and it's going to play it once in the octave I'm playing and once one octave above. Now we can change this distance, which can get a little bit crazy, which maybe is something you want. So to demonstrate this really clearly, I'm going to set this to +2, which is a whole step, which means every single time it transposes this, it's going to go up a whole step. So I'll play my C major chord. It will play back a C major chord, followed by D, followed by E, followed by F sharp, and so on. So let's have a listen. Right, because I only have one step. But if you turned it up, and so on and so forth. So controlling steps and distance. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not the most helpful because now I'm out of my key. You would be correct, but Transpose is going to help us. So we can tell the arpeggiator that we're in the key of C major, and even though I've got this set to transpose by 2, it's going to keep all of these notes diatonic. So let's have a listen. Pretty nice. So you can get some interesting patterns with that. Can get a little crazy. But again, understanding what these guys actually do gives you a ton of power to be in control of your arpeggiator, which is cool because then you have some solid technique, and that gives you control and helps you be even more artistic. All right. This is a cool parameter. This kind of ends up giving you the ability to create like almost an echo, which I'm going to demonstrate that right now by just using one note. So we're going to turn the velocity on, and I'm going to put my target to 0, and we'll leave the decay at 1 second so you can kind of hear what happens. So if you watch this velocity, and if I turn this up, sort of creating like a MIDI echo, MIDI decay thing that's very cool. And you can play with this target. And once it reaches its target, it just kind of hangs out there. So I'm going to set this to, this is fine. And I'm going to turn retrigger on. And retrigger is going to work in conjunction with this retrigger to create some interesting note beat sort of changing in velocity. You'll see, here's the demonstration so you can watch it happen. I'm going to make this a little bit more extreme so you can get a better idea. And you see when it goes back to retrigger, the velocity goes back up. I can make that even more extreme by... And if I put my target really to 0... So as you see, you can really get some interesting things happening here. Just using the built-in parameters that's on here already. Now, once you have something that you think is kind of cool, which I would say this is pretty cool, I'm going to go in and do, let's do the distance as 5. Let's do 5 steps. Let's do the key of C. All right, so now let's capture what we've done. This is pretty interesting. I'm going to change these parameters here, put my distance 5, give this a little change here, and let's set this so that it keeps us in the key signature. And I'll put this at 16 maybe. Cool. All right, let's see what sort of MIDI we can capture. All right, so let's have a look here. As you can see, we've got these values down at the bottom. These are our velocity values. And they're sort of slowly coming down, which is cool. Let's listen to this one time through, see what we can isolate. All right, let's check out this one. All right, so you might like that, and you could come in now and say, all right, this is my loop. Yeah. And then if there was something that you wanted to change, any of these velocities, any of the notes, moving them, you could go in and do that because you've captured it. All just by having a basic understanding of Ableton's Arpeggiator. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to Ableton, and especially if you're switching from MainStage, head over to my website at MainstagetoAbleton.com/go to get your free copy of the Fast Track patch list guide today, which will have you up and running with a MainStage style patch list in Ableton Live. And to stay up to date with all of our latest blog posts, be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel here.